So today we have a special guest on our show. Dr. Dean is running two clinics that's running a functional medicine in Colorado Springs and Denver. The reason that I think that Dr. Dean is very special is because he's not only a doctor, he's also a Zoho guru. He knows how to create automations, webhooks, workflows, and so on. Very, very interesting person. Dr. Dean, good morning. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good.
What is functional medicine?
Yeah, so functional medicine is kind of an umbrella term that can encompass a lot. I wouldn't actually say we do functional medicine. It's one of our services. So functional medicine is a specific service that deals with very, very much so treating the origin of pathology before it becomes a disease, right? So kind of like what we were saying before, when you go to your medical doctor or any specialist in the allopathic system, which is conventional medicine, and they give you a diagnosis, it's an official disease, right? Well, right. There's a ton of people that go through the system and they have a ton of symptoms, but then the doctors tell them they're all right. I mean, this happens, more times than it shouldn't.
Of course.
And so the patient leaves confused, thinking, well, my doctor says I'm okay, right? And either they just accept the symptoms and ignore it, or they go down this path trying to figure out, because normal physiology shouldn't present as with any symptoms. If you're healthy, you shouldn't have symptoms.
Right.
So I can tell you, here's what that means. When you go through all the specialists and they tell you have no disease, but you have symptoms, I'm telling you something is wrong. But when they tell you nothing's there, that's actually good news. It means it hasn't progressed to a serious enough level to where they have a drug or a surgery to treat you with. So something's still wrong, unfortunately, when they tell you that nothing's wrong, but it's good news that it hasn't progressed to an advanced enough level. So that means you need to seek out a functional doctor to help you.
You have discomfort, but you're not sick.
Yeah, you're not sick. And again, all that means is they have a drug for you. Yeah. We can go down that rabbit hole, but yes, you want to find a functional doctor when your regular doctors are telling you you're fine, yet you have any type of symptoms. It doesn't even have to be pain. You have headaches, you have hot flashes, you have any type of symptom that's abnormal. You shouldn't have symptoms.
I see. Now, tell me something. How did you learn Zoho to the level that you are right now?
Yeah,
you are way above an average person and you are not a programmer.
No, I'm not. And, so it's interesting because in my business, so I run these medical practices, and the medical integration model for chiropractors is becoming way more popular over the last 10 to 20 years. In fact, in my opinion, for a chiropractor to be successful nowadays, you either need to be straight chiropractic, high volume, or you medically integrate because there's higher case values per patient, and it expands what you can treat. Right? If you're just adjusting, you're kind of limited, for pain, right, and of the body.
You mean chiropractor adjustments?
Yeah,
those
exactly.
5-minute sessions.
Yeah. So there's many different types of chiropractic, and I love chiropractic. I think chiropractic is phenomenal for somebody who's healthy, to keep them healthy, keep them mobile, keep them moving, keep the brain connected to the body and function optimally. But
it helped me a lot. I'm absolutely with you.
Yeah. I mean, beats taking pain pills. But when you medically integrate as a chiropractor, you broaden your horizon and you bring in the medical staff to be able to provide a lot more services, right? So in our clinic, our two specialties are pain management and anti-aging. And so we do hormonal optimization, and we do peptides, we do all sorts of fun stuff. So not to get down too much down that path, but basically, as far as the CRM, we do a lot of cash services. And so what doctors have discovered over the past couple of years in my business model is that we need a CRM, and that is, any sales business needs a CRM. And when you're in my model, unless you're some of the few offices that are 100% insurance, which is a dying model because insurance companies have been reducing and hacking reimbursements for as long as they can. It's very rare that I find a clinic in my model that's full insurance. So they have to sell cash.
So it's a cash-based business, basically, like any other business.
Yep, it's becoming cash-based, and so a CRM, is a huge tool. I was shocked, because I learned about a CRM 3 years ago, and I didn't even I heard the term CRM, but it never clicked for me. And so I heard what a CRM was, and I'm like, oh my God, why don't I have this in my practice? I was lucky enough for somebody to have introduced me to Zoho. I knew Salesforce. Salesforce is kind of like the Goliath in the industry.
Yes.
So I did some presentations with them. And what kind of attracted me to Zoho was the customizability of it. And I know with Salesforce, they're very limited. It's pretty much preset for you. So if you're looking for something this is my opinion, what I've observed, if you're looking for something that's preset, it's not as much setup, you're going to pay a premium, but you don't have to mess with anything, then Salesforce might be the way to go. But
I think just for this point, I think that Salesforce is also customizable. The question is how much money you're going to spend. And the answer will be tens of thousands and even north to it. So, you can do a lot, but it's big boys game. It's not for small companies like us. Gotcha.
Okay. That's good to know. So I didn't even realize that. With the CRM, the fact that it was something that I could learn how to customize. So, once I dove into the CRM, I honestly just started playing with it, and working with your company was I think the bridge. I worked with another company first before you, and my experience with them wasn't great. So when I segued over to your company, and got some more training, it just seemed like every month I would conquer one more aspect, the webhooks, then the workflows, then the schedules. And it just seemed like every time I confronted, because that's what it is, you got to confront it, because in the beginning you're like, dude, there's so many options on the screen.
It's a beast.
It is such a beast. And I still learn little nuances every now and then, but like anything, you take it chapter by chapter.
Right.
And once you finish a chapter, you realize that now there's some new aspect of interpolability between the webhooks, between the workflows, between the schedules. And every chapter you conquer, you start to put it all together. And then you really appreciate how much
this crazy tool.
This is insane what you can do with this. I mean, they built it so that you can do everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in your business, you have maybe 5 steps. So step number 1 probably will be to, when people come in, they inquire from the website or from your different channels, and they need to come in, and Zoe is involved at that point as well.
Yes.
And then you have the point that they are actually in communication with the salespeople or specialists, and then they come to the clinic, and also there you have Zoe involved. So can you take us through, because again, some businesses or most businesses will have Zoe involved in some areas of the business. With you, it's full. It's from the even before he's a client and all the way after he's a client.
Yeah. So what, like I was saying before, once you confront, every chapter of Zoho, and you realize what more it can do, at least for me, naturally, I know the benefit of having everything under one umbrella, having everything under one roof. So I started expanding, and like you said, I have Zoho involved from the very, very, very beginning. So let's talk about that. So in my business, we acquire new patients mostly through our advertisements and referrals. Referrals are huge. But let's talk about the more common one, which is the advertisements. So when somebody sees one of our advertisements, they usually get directed to a form submission where they agree.
It's a landing page.
Like a landing page, and they fill out their information. Once that information is filled out, right from that point, I have each company integrated into the CRM, usually through Zoho Flow or sometimes through, what's the other one that Zoho Flow copies off
Zapier.
of Zapier. Yeah. So some, depending on the company. And you really have to talk to the companies because they're not, every time I talk to them, they're like, whoa, you're asking for a lot, but they'll do it. They're not used to customers like me, you know, asking them to do all this.
Right. Most people will get it to their email, copy paste, all the crap. Yeah.
Or an old school spreadsheet, which is what we used to do, a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So we have it integrated so that the moment a customer fills out the form, it automatically triggers. So the record gets submitted into Zoho, it creates a record automatically. And then that creation triggers a workflow.
So wait, so you have multiple lead sources, multiple websites and services that you work with. All of them will push eventually using webhooks to CRM.
Correct.
Okay. And now this is the CRM piece.
So this is the CRM piece. So they fill out the form, that record goes into the CRMs, which saves us time because all that information is already there.
Of course.
And then it triggers a workflow, which our workflows have a series of emails, texts. And so the moment that they get, they fill out the form, they'll get an immediate text message, you know, inviting them to the clinic, giving them some basic information, letting them know that there's an email, and inviting them to call, right?
And also there I would say that you also there you are very advanced. So it's not one text message or one email for everyone. It's based on the service. So
correct.
People get exactly, they connected regarding back pain, they will get messages regarding back pain. So the advertisement and your message and your response, it's all matched perfectly.
Yeah. You know, what's funny is when I started off, I took the lazy route and I was trying to create a series of messages that would work for all my lead types because, you know, my first thought was this is going to take me so many hours of work.
Exactly.
But I would recommend, depending on how many services the clinic has, if you only have one or two, you know, start off with one. Don't overwhelm yourself. We had the one that was working as a general message, but then once I had that going, then I was like, okay, time to customize it. And then, like you said, I created a series of messages that were tailored towards each lead type, including.
That's a game changer.
It's a game changer, right? Because when you have a pain patient, you want them to have messages related to pain, including this is a powerful thing. We had testimonial videos that I have on YouTube that I use a shorter URL through BitMe, and so I have a really shortened URL on their phone. You know, the third message, because a lot of people they fill out the form, but then they get lost back in their world and they forget why they registered to begin with. But then when they're getting text messages that hit them up at a good frequency where it's not too much, especially when they see, see what other people are saying, you know, that have been to our clinic, and they click that link and all of a sudden now they're watching testimonial videos of people who are selling our services. And so that's really, really powerful. And the whole goal is to get them to engage with our call center. And then the call center gets them on the phone to get them scheduled to come into the clinic.
One thing, if I can add it's a very interesting point. So you're saying that they are connecting with you and then they disappear. I used to work with a big weight loss company. I was their marketer for some time. We ran campaigns, people calling, and they disappear. And we analyzed it, and it looks like when the person calls you is in his 100% pain, it's a mental pain that he wants to solve this problem. But when he's calling you or sending the lead form, he feels subconsciously that he's already 50% okay because he initiated the cure, even though he didn't talk to anyone. So what you're doing here, that you're giving a specific message that is triggering about his pain point, you just enforce him again to go back to the route of pain point and go back to the cycle.
Yeah. There's
very powerful.
There's some psychology behind, you know, not to go too deep, but levels of awareness and where the patient's at. You know, some people are fixated that they don't even have a problem yet. And then some people know they have a problem, but they don't know how it affects their life. And then after they know it affects their life, they need to understand it's getting worse. And so there's this whole psychology in these series of steps that I train my call center on, because whether they're texting the customer or whether they're talking to the customer, they need to pinpoint where that potential customer is at in their awareness level, and then focus on moving them through these levels of awareness to get them to the point where they are ready to come into the clinic and begin the journey of solving these problems.
Yeah. So you have those messages, SMS, emails going to the client. Now, let's say that you have 5 messages that's supposed to be sent day after day. What happens if the person connects with you?
Yeah. So this is where the customizability of the CRM is just so robust. So we have a sequence, right, is really the best way to describe it, of these messages and phone calls, but there are certain additional variables, like the status of the lead. So lead status represents where the person is at in the process. And we can add those lead statuses as an additional filter to the workflow. So for example, when somebody gets scheduled, we would hate for them to keep getting these automated text messages, right? So we have on our workflow, for example, when the status is scheduled, they don't get bombarded anymore, because the whole goal is to get them scheduled. If a customer says they're no longer interested, they're not going to get bombarded anymore. You know, if a customer says, I'm interested, but give me 3 months, we set a task. And when task is set, that's another filter. Turn off the sequence, right? So those are probably actually the 3 main things. I'm not interested, scheduled, or follow up. That'll turn off our sequence so that they don't get bombarded. And then of course, when a patient doesn't arrive into the clinic, they become a canceled no-show. That's what we call them. And that feeds them back into the sequence to get basically bombarded, you know. And it's funny because doctors are always afraid to do this, but you know, this is why when you grow big and you have a call center, or if you're a small clinic and you have one person use your call center, that's fine. It doesn't matter whether you have one person or you have a team like I do. They still need to understand that you're not harassing the patient. These are people that went out of their way to fill out the information.
That's right. That's right.
They might get mad and act like, why are you harassing me? That's inevitable.
And you stop.
But we stop. But I teach my call center, this is huge. I teach them, like, every person that you give up on is a person that is no longer going to get the help that they asked for.
That's what I see as well. He asked you for help and you ignore him. That's not cool.
So I literally teach my call center that this is your duty. This is your obligation to bug everybody until they tell you one of 3 things.
Right.
I'm ready to schedule, follow up later, or I'm not interested. And in the process, you're going to piss a few people off, but how many more people are you going to help? So don't let that fear of upsetting a couple people prevent you from helping so many others. And once they get it, they're so pumped, you know, and yeah, anyways. So.
Yeah. I'm with you all the way on that. Unless the person says, don't call me anymore, it's your obligation to help them as a business.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So when someone eventually is in your clinic,
okay,
you have different paperwork that they need to fill. Usually you go to offices, you have this long form with this crappy pen that you need to fill all the details. What's going on in your
clinic? So you know, we are trying to go green as much as we can. So we ended up creating all of our forms with what is it called?
Zoho
Sign. And so we created all our forms. It was definitely a trial and error process. It's not the easiest, I'll admit, with Zoho Forms or Zoho Sign. And but we do have all of our forms created. Again, like anything, you confront it, you get comfortable with it. And so now one of my office members, she's the specialist in our office at creating forms. And so patients get emailed all the forms, and we tell them to fill it out electronically. Some customers can because they're savvy enough, and some customers just will never do that. They're going to show up, and then when they show up, if they filled out their forms already electronically, good. They did it up from their home, and we saved all that paper. For the ones that show up and couldn't do it for whatever reason, they have an option of taking one of our iPads and doing it electronically there, which some customers will do it. And then some of our older customers, you know how they are, they don't even want to look at an iPad.
Of course.
You know, we deal with a lot of Medicare patients. So we give them the option. We recommend that they use the iPad to save paper. But if they need the paper, then we print out the paper and we give it to them and you know, scan that all into their chart.
But you still save some people doing it from home, some people using the iPad, and some people, eventually the leftovers, will use the old conventional way.
The old conventional papers. And so they get all their paperwork filled out. They start in the process of seeing our patient educators. And then eventually, if they sign up for care, they see the medical staff. And every single time this record, this potential patient is moving through the system, they're getting updated with their lead status. So the lead status is the most important probably indicator out of all the different fields. We call them fields in the CRM. So the lead status is so important because it tells everybody in the office where that record is in the process, because they arrived at the clinic. Great. Once they arrived at the clinic, the next thing is, did they sign up for care? Pay. Then after they pay, are they scheduled for the procedure? Did they show up for the procedure? Did they complete the procedure? Once every time they go through that process, we change the lead status. And then every change in the lead status, this is why I love the CRM, allows me to have a separate workflow. So, the customer shows up, has a consultation, didn't agree to sign up yet. Well, that lead status can trigger reminders to, videos, get them engaging, get them thinking, come back and pay. And then sometimes when people pay, I always teach my staff, they're still not in a patient yet because 10% of patients back out. They go home, they paid, they think about it. So we send them testimonials. All that's triggering automatically, engaging with them and making them feel comfortable as much as possible, all the way up to the point until they finally do their procedure, whether it's a stem cell injection, regenerative injection, whether it's hormone therapy. Once they do the procedure, they're officially a patient. And then we move them over into the contact section of the CRM. And now they're a customer. They're really a patient for us.
Right.
And then that's a whole separate system in the CRM, which we can do stuff with them as well.
And I know that there are lots of different systems out there, Dr. Chronos and big system for medical practices. You were able somehow to do what Dr. Chrono is doing on Zoho.
Yes. So,
right. And by the way, guys, this is far from being easy or even hard. I would say hard would be an easy relatively to what Dr. Dean did with the CRM on this part.
Yeah, this is the way my brain works. Like once I've been on the CRM train for a while, right? So I think any doctor that does cash, once they understand a CRM and they have one that they can use, they're all for it. But the biggest complaint that I hear from every doctor is, now I have a CRM and an EHR. And that's so cumbersome because the EHR, first of all, for anybody watching this doesn't know, that's our EMR, EHR, same thing. It's the system that doctors use that usually involves their clinical charting, which is a huge obligation for any practice of any discipline, is to chart. And so companies over probably, I don't know how many decades, have made electronic versions of the system that handle charting, handle scheduling. Some of them handle billing. They try to make it as convenient for the doctor as possible. But the problem is when you have a CRM and an EHR, you have a lot of crossover. It creates confusion because now you have two different systems that do a lot of the same thing, actually. They each have records, there's information, there's attachments, there's documents, there's communication, there's so much crossover. I would say there was probably 75-80% crossover.
And they're not talking to each other. That's the
But
pain.
they're not talking to each other. So all my staff was like asking me all the time, so we got to put it in both systems. And I would sit there and be like, yeah, that's kind of stupid, right? I agree with you. I was agreeing with my staff, like, this is kind of retarded. So then I started looking at, well, how do we solve this problem? The EHRs are not customizable. They are built out, pre-built by the companies. So I can't convert the EHR system to do what the CRM does. And then there's stuff that the CRM does that the EHR will never do. But the CRM, Zoho, is so customizable. I was like, why don't I just build the CRM out to do that 25% that the EHR doesn't do, and then I'll save. So here, this is why my brain was like, we got to do this. I've always been the kind of guy that once I get fixated on something, in my head, there's just no roadblocks. We're going to get this done. Now, sometimes that works against me because I didn't realize how involved this project was going to be. Like I under appreciated it, but once we finish it, it's been amazing. But yeah, so we've been focusing on the different sections that the CRM needed so that we can phase out of we were using Dr. Chronos. So you save the initial money because EHRs are not cheap. We were
Very
paying,
expensive.
no, we were paying $200 a month per provider. So when we have 2 to 4 providers, that's $400 to $800 a month. So we immediately eliminate that bill completely because you're paying for the CRM already. So you eliminate
it's like a $5,000 a year.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And then I would say if you extrapolate the savings of confusion, right? So now the staff have one system. So all the time that you're saving from your staff from having
that's what I see. The time,
that's
so expensive.
I'm not even talking about time from the thousands of dollars. That's just from cutting the bill. But then you have the extrapolation of the time and confusion, which ends up creating more time.
And mistakes and updating phone numbers or emails.
Yep. So to me, that's a bigger savings that I was able to accomplish by doing this. I think I actually feel really confident that I'm going to put this together, as an option for other doctors.
You must.
I think
it's a must. Yeah.
Any doctor that I've told that I've done this has just been like, are you kidding me? Like, I want that. And so I think I'm going to put this together as an option, probably working with your company as well. Because now that we've done the work of figuring it out, now it's just a matter of we have basically a trademarked thing that we can just replicate into their system. And it should be significantly easier.
And you have one more thing that is also crazy. Most of the calendar systems, they will work based on people. So you can book an appointment with a person. In your case, you have also rooms. So you have two variables, book appointments to people and book appointments to rooms. And you created a web application, custom web application that's integrating with Zoho CRM, that the team can book appointments to room and people at the same time.
Yeah, so that was huge because the most clinics, not all of them, but most clinics prefer to book a room because they have a lot of times they have services that different people can do. So it's completely not tied to an individual person. Like in our clinic, we have wave therapy for our patients, and any MA can do it. So any medical assistant. So once I looked at the different options that Zoho provided, I felt like we needed something customized so that we can do it. And that's what we built out, like you said, was a schedule that allows us to book per room. Everything pulls in from the CRM. So everything's streamlined and it's smooth. So.
And the booking can be done from the CRM. So even though it's a web application, you don't feel that it's a web application. It's like part of your Zoho.
Yeah, so essentially we're booking everything in the CRM. So all the data's in the CRM. So we can, again, do webhooks, we could do workflows, whatever we want, but the whole point of the web application is aesthetics. You need a visual of what the day looks like.
Right.
An individual room might need to look at what is this room looking at? What are all the appointments every day? So it's strictly from a visual standpoint, but all the information gets pulled from the CRM. So again, from an EHR perspective and a HIPAA perspective and a compliance perspective, we have a full track record of everything that patient's done in the CRM. So if the patient ever needed a copy of their visits, a copy of their visit history, everything's synced up with the activities module of the CRM, which is what we need, one of the requirements of an EHR.
While you're talking about all these points, I'm getting PTSD, remembering the initial stages.
Yeah.
It
was intense.
Yeah. Very intense. So for sure you created a very sophisticated machine. You have also credit card processing that is not Stripe or what Zoho is offering, which is a custom solution. You have tons of stuff that is really crazy.
Yeah,
it's a beast inside of a beast.
It really is. My whole goal is to streamline. So really quick, I'll touch on that one because that one's actually exciting too. I forgot about that one. We use Cash Practice, and it's
huge. The saving on the
oh my gosh. I'm going to promote Cash Practice because Dr. Miles Bosden,
you deserve it.
He went out of his way to put the time and energy into figuring a solution for me. And so I'm going to recommend anybody that ends up doing my integration utilizes his merchant services. So Cash Practice is his merchant services. And he figured out a way to create a connection with our CRM, because when you charge a customer, you have to have a name, you have to enter all that information. So again, I wanted to streamline it. So now we have this connection where we can charge the customer through the CRM. So we don't have to type in any additional name, any of that information. It still charges the customer through the merchant, but then all that financial data that's related to the transaction, guess what? Gets pulled back into the CRM under one central hub, which is extremely important when the patient asks for records of finances.
It also goes to Zoho Books, right?
And it goes to Zoho Books too as well, which is a whole nother application that, it is something that I've done.
Yeah, we just touched the CRM part with
the Zoho Books. I've left QuickBooks to save money. And I use Zoho Books now because I get it for free basically, and more or less for my subscription to CRM. Now all my books are integrated to the CRM. So all these transactions goes to the customer's book. I have a way to give them copies of their transactions, and the customers can even go home and we can give them a URL so they can actually, from their own home, they can access their financial related data that is accessible from the books. So
how is your bookkeeper like Zoho Books?
Yeah, so I use Simon Fedorowski.
Using Simon.
Yes,
that's awesome.
Yeah, Simon is the best.
He's the king.
He's the king, and so if you're going to go Zoho Books, you need somebody because there's that initial aspect of making it work, and the complexity involved with it. So you want an accountant that understands Zoho Books, and there's nobody that understands Zoho Books better than Simon's company, and he's just been great to work with. I kind of sometimes get in a habit of I just pick up my phone and call somebody and I want them to answer. And, he does a pretty good job of tailoring to that. I'm not saying he's going to do that all the time, but he's been a pleasure to work with. And he's gone out of his way to create what exactly I was looking for. So, for anybody that's wanting to use Zoho Books, I strongly recommend that you work with Simon. And he doesn't charge an arm and a leg either.
Yeah, he's the king of books.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so look, I think we were able to probably tell the audience probably 0.5% of your business and what you do and the crazy stuff that you created on Zoho.
Yeah,
for sure. Whenever you're ready with this product, I will be happy to do another session and present it, because it is a beast and it is a huge save in money and complexity. And what's happening usually with medical doctors, because they don't want to have those two systems, they just stuck with the EMR, which is not a CRM. So they're losing all the automations, they're losing all the marketing piece, it's a huge damage to the business.
Yep.
So I will be more than happy to promote your product. Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I'm excited. If I had to guess, I would say probably, I always underestimate with Zoho. So I don't know, 3 to 9 months is probably my best guess. If I'm aggressive, 3 months, we could be ready. If there's a few more hiccups, probably 9 months. So definitely 2022, it's happening. We're going to have a product.
By knowing you, it will be probably 3 months.
Yeah. I'm definitely, I like to get things done as quickly as I can. So.
Awesome. Dr. Dean, you're awesome, smart, innovative, creative. Awesome having you on this session. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.